What we're witnessing right now isn't normal diplomacy. It's something far more unusual. Americans are stepping in front of cameras, not to defend their government, not to justify policy, but to apologize, directly to Canadians. And not for something Canada did, but for what the United States is doing. That shift changes everything. Because for weeks, tensions have been rising. Trade pressure. Public jabs. Policy moves designed to corner Canada before talks even begin. It looked like a calculated strategy: push hard, force concessions. But now, something unexpected is happening. The pushback isn't just coming from Canada. It's coming from inside the United States. Americans themselves are calling it out. Saying it's wrong. Saying it's damaging. Not just to Canada, but to their own country's image. And the moment that starts happening, this stops being a Canada versus United States story. It becomes a United States problem. In this video, we're breaking down why Americans are now backing Canada, how this creates pressure on Donald Trump, and what it means for the future of this relationship. But before we go further, subscribe to Canada Daily for sharp, fact-driven analysis on the moments shaping Canada's future. Now here's where things take a turn. At a global economic forum in Washington, rebranded this year as the North Atlantic Growth Summit, a senior U.S. official took the stage and delivered a message that stunned the room. Not policy. Not strategy. Just two words aimed at Canada. You suck. On camera. At an international event. And within hours, the clip spread everywhere. But what followed was even more revealing. Americans began responding, not with agreement, but with embarrassment. One commentator went live and addressed Canadians directly. "We're sorry. That's not us. That doesn't represent who we are." Another joked, half seriously, about moving to Canada if things kept going this way. But behind the humor was something real. A growing discomfort with how their own country was behaving on the global stage. This isn't just disagreement anymore. It's reputational damage. Because when officials replace diplomacy with insults, it doesn't project strength. It signals instability. And Americans are recognizing that, not as politics, but as something that reflects on them. So now, something rare is happening. The public narrative inside the U.S. is starting to split from the government narrative. And that split matters. Because once people begin openly rejecting the message coming from leadership, the strategy behind that message begins to weaken. Meanwhile, the official response made things worse. A follow-up statement tried to clarify the remark, framing it as a comment about economic imbalance. But instead of cooling tensions, it amplified the tone. What was meant to fix the situation ended up reinforcing it. And at that point, the damage wasn't just external. It became internal. Because the entire strategy depended on one assumption: that Canada would eventually fold under pressure. But that assumption is now failing. On one side, Canada isn't backing down. It's adapting, diversifying trade, strengthening other partnerships, reducing reliance. On the other side, the United States isn't unified. When your own citizens start apologizing to the country you're targeting, that's not leverage. That's fragmentation. And this is where the bigger shift happens. Canadians are changing behavior. Travel is being reconsidered. Spending patterns are shifting. Long-standing habits are being re-evaluated. Relationships that took decades to build are starting to weaken, fast. And this time, the United States isn't insulated from that impact. It's feeling it. But here's the key point most people are missing. Canada didn't suddenly decide to pull away. This wasn't random. It wasn't emotional. It was a response. A response to tariffs. To uncertainty in agreements. To rhetoric that crossed the line from disagreement into disrespect. At a certain point, a country doesn't just manage differences anymore. It reassesses the relationship itself. And that's exactly what Canada has been forced to do. What makes this moment different is that this reality is now being acknowledged from within the United States. Americans are saying it openly. Canada didn't walk away. It was pushed. And once that idea takes hold, everything changes. Because now the pressure isn't on Canada to respond. It's on the strategy that created this situation. This is no longer just a geopolitical dispute. It's a turning point. Because when criticism comes from the outside, it can be dismissed. But when it comes from within, from your own people, in public, without hesitation, it becomes impossible to ignore. And that's where we are now. Canada has made its position clear. But increasingly, Americans are making theirs clear too. And when those two realities start aligning, the pressure doesn't fall on Canada anymore. It falls on the system that set this all in motion. Subscribe to Canada Daily or Daily, in-depth analysis on the moments shaping Canada's future.